operation to smuggle cocaine and weapons into the United States. Was this a decisive strike to eliminate a growing threat? Or the spark that would ignite something far greater? Let's find out. October 14th, 2025, 8:37 a.m., Caribbean Sea, 90 nautical miles north of Venezuela. For weeks, the Caribbean has been a smoldering powder keg. Radar blockades, aggressive maneuvers, and diplomatic silence have left the region on the brink of chaos. Despite 4 direct warnings from Washington, Caracas has refused to budge, expanding its maritime claim more than 180 nautical miles beyond internationally recognized limits. The United States called the move illegal and provocative. Venezuela called it defending sovereignty. That morning, the USS Thomas Hudner, DDG-116, a $2.2 billion Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, was conducting a standard patrol to protect sea lanes through which more than $2.3 billion in U.S. trade passes each week. Any disruption here could ripple through global energy markets and supply chains in a matter of hours. At a naval command post near Puerto Cabello, a Venezuelan radar technician froze. A new signal flashed in his sight. Sharp, steady, unmistakable. USS Thomas Hudner. Minutes later, officers on the Venezuelan ship's bridge began arguing. Was it tailing them, or was it invading their waters? The radio chatter became tense. At 8:40 a.m., a single command cut through the tension. Fire! 3 P-800 Onyx supersonic anti-ship missiles, each weighing 6,600 pounds and capable of Mach 2.6, whirled off the launcher. The sky was a blinding white. Within 24 seconds, sensors across the Caribbean detected a massive shockwave. The American destroyer's crew picked up the radar signature. Alarms blared, instrument panels lit up, and the destroyer deployed a multi-layered defense, launching 4 SM-6 interceptors into the sky at dawn, accelerating at 3,500 miles per hour to counter the approaching threat. 3 Onyx warheads disintegrated in mid-air. Debris rained down into the sea. But one missile made it through. It struck with the force of 18 tons of TNT, shattering the deck and spewing molten steel onto the superstructure. Inside, electricity flickered. Communications were cut. Of the 320 sailors, 24 were injured, 3 were confirmed dead, and 12 vital systems were shut down. The calm of the Caribbean was gone, replaced by smoke, fire, and silence. By 9 a.m., a distress call reached the U.S. Naval Command. The calm seas had turned violent. In Washington, the response was immediate. Would the United States strike back immediately, or would Washington pause for a single breath to consider diplomacy? 10 a.m., White House, Situation Room, West Wing. The news hit Washington like a thunderbolt. By early afternoon, the Pentagon had confirmed what no one wanted to believe. A U.S. Navy destroyer had been deliberately targeted and disabled by a foreign military in the Caribbean, a direct act of war. The missile was determined to have been fired by a Venezuelan Navy patrol boat on orders from superiors. It was not an illegal act. Inside the heavily guarded Situation Room of the White House, President Donald J. Trump convened an emergency meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CYA leadership, and senior Pentagon officials. Security was tight. Phones were confiscated. The atmosphere, tense. They hit first. Now we hit smart, the president's words echoed through the room. Within minutes, Operation Freedom Thunder was born. A surgical mission designed not for show, but for impact. The goal was twofold. Strike a precise blow to Venezuela's leadership. Reassert American control over freedom of navigation in the Caribbean. But then there was something more. A shocking leak from inside the Venezuelan National Assembly emerged. Intercepted by U.S. intelligence and confirmed by satellite, President Nicolas Maduro and senior cabinet members were allegedly involved in a multi-level smuggling network, shipping cocaine and military weapons into American cities. The shipments were being transported through secret maritime corridors, disguised as humanitarian aid. This wasn't just war. This was infiltration. At 5:17 p.m., the orders were signed. At 5:20 p.m., a safety call is sent to Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana. Within 90 minutes, America's most formidable long-range punitive weapon will be in the sky. Two B-52H Stratofortress bombers take off from Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana. Target: Venezuela's National Assembly in Caracas. The countdown to vengeance is on. Was the U.S. unleashing its arsenal to punish or simply to warn what could come next? October 15, 2025, 7:45 a.m. Caracas, Venezuela, National Assembly Building. At dawn, Venezuela awoke to a delusion of calm. But 35,000 feet above the capital, the storm had begun. Two B-52H Stratofortress bombers, call signs Bunny 01 and Bunny 02, had departed Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, 7 hours earlier. Refueled in the air by a KC-135 tanker, the bombers were not alone. Flying with them was an EA-18G Growler, a U.S. Navy electronic warfare aircraft tasked with jamming Venezuela's integrated air defense network. Its mission: to blind the enemy before they could see the bombs. At the same time, two F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters flew in tight escort formation, silent sentries protecting the bombers from any last-minute intercept attempts. As the strike group approached from an unexpected southern direction, Growler unleashed a full-spectrum electronic attack on Caracas's radar system. In underground bunkers and command centers, Venezuelan operators stared in disbelief, their screens filled with dozens of false returns, the flickering echoes of phantom aircraft darting in every direction. Every signal was a ghost, every lock-on attempt a failure. And in that moment of confusion, they never saw the real threat coming. Their target had been locked for hours, the National Assembly building in central Caracas, a symbol of Venezuelan power and, according to newly leaked intelligence, a hub for coordinating drug trafficking and arms smuggling into the United States. At 7:45 a.m., without a radio call or warning shot, the Stratofortresses dropped their bombs. 5 GBU-31 JDAMs, 2,000-pound precision-guided bunker busters programmed to strike within a 10-foot margin of error. In just 3.4 seconds, the bombs rained down on the National Assembly grounds. The first flattened the center wing. The second and third destroyed reinforced rooms used by senior officials. The last two detonated in slow motion, causing an earthquake that measured 3.1 on the Richter scale on local monitors. The glass walls steamed. The power went out for 6 blocks. Surveillance footage then captured a 120-foot-high fireball that pierced the roof and hurled steel into the sky. Inside, chaos reigned. Dozens were injured by collapsing ceilings, shock waves, and debris. 12 political staffers were hospitalized, including 2 senior advisors to President Maduro. Miraculously, Maduro himself was not present, but the building and the message were beyond repair. Emergency sirens blared across Caracas. Civilians fled. Jets took off. But it was too late. The B-52s and their escorts were gone. Phantoms in the sky. The entire operation, from the radar jamming to the final strike, lasted less than 7 minutes. Not a single U.S. asset was affected. This was not just an attack. It was a show of force, of range, of accuracy, and of a warning. The United States will not wait for war to defend its borders. And for Venezuela, this is just the beginning of the consequences. Do you believe this was justice or escalation? Keep watching as we uncover the aftermath. 12:30 p.m., Puerto Cabello, Venezuela. Naval Command hours after the bombing, Caracas was still reeling. The National Assembly building lay in ruins. Smoke billowed from shattered windows. Live broadcasts were cut off mid-sentence. Civilians were evacuated from nearby neighborhoods as the aftershocks of the blast echoed through the capital's aging infrastructure. But beyond the structural damage, the psychological impact was greater. This was more than just an airstrike. This was a precise destruction of political trust. Inside Venezuela's military command, chaos gave way to silence. Officers who had pushed for aggressive naval patrols now faced a paralyzed chain of command. 2 senior naval commanders were confirmed wounded in the attack. One died en route to the hospital. Communications between branches were unstable. At least 5 key encrypted network nodes had been knocked out by the shockwave. Meanwhile, Pentagon analysts monitored satellite heat signatures across Venezuela. Every military base was placed on emergency lockdown. But no counterattack was underway. No missiles were loaded. No planes were taking off. The message was clear. Venezuela had been silenced. President Trump held a press conference at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He declared, "The United States did not start the war, but we stopped the threats. We warned. They fired. Now they are rebuilding." Behind him, charts showed cocaine shipment routes intercepted by the DEA from Venezuela to Florida. Another screen showed surveillance camera images of secret weapons caches hidden beneath humanitarian aid warehouses. This is not speculation, but hard evidence. The international response was swift. NATO members issued statements of support. 25 countries suspended diplomatic channels with Caracas. Insurance premiums for shipping near Venezuelan waters tripled overnight. Inside Venezuela, panic began to spread. Thousands poured into the streets, fearing further U.S. airstrikes. Government spokesmen denied any wrongdoing, but leaked documents, some traced to defected security officials, told a different story. The missile strike on the USS Thomas Hudner had been approved at the highest levels. And now, that decision was costing them. From strength to perception, Venezuela's bold defiance collapsed in less than 24 hours. What began as a show of sovereignty ended in a smoking pit of fire. And the American flag, once fluttering over the Caribbean, now flies stronger than ever, with thunder still echoing in the background. October 16, 2025, 7 a.m., global markets, shipping lanes, and diplomatic halls. The dust had not yet settled in Caracas, but the world had already changed. By dawn, satellite imagery confirmed what many had feared. The National Assembly was unfit for use. Engineers estimated reconstruction would take no less than 18 months and cost upwards of $120 million. Dozens of critical government systems, records, communications, surveillance servers had been wiped out. But the ripple effects didn't stop at Venezuela's borders. Global insurance conglomerates issued an emergency advisory. All vessels transiting within 300 nautical miles of Venezuela would face surcharges up to 400%. Shipping companies rerouted tankers through longer paths, some diverting more than 1,000 miles to avoid potential retaliation zones. The result? Crude oil delivery delays from Brazil and Guyana. Food import schedules disrupted in the Caribbean basin. Fuel prices in southern Florida surged 11% overnight. Wall Street felt it too. The Dow dipped 600 points in early trading. Airline stocks plummeted. Defense contractors surged. But nowhere was the fallout more visible than in Latin America's diplomatic sphere. Within 48 hours, 27 countries officially condemned Venezuela's aggression. 14 allies in the Western Hemisphere reaffirmed joint maritime patrols with the U.S. The OAS, Organization of American States, convened an emergency summit to consider sanctions. Inside Venezuela, the government scrambled to project control. State television aired reruns of old Maduro speeches. Yet the people were unconvinced. Protests erupted in 5 major cities demanding accountability for the failed missile strike and its consequences. Leaked hospital reports confirmed at least 46 injuries from the assembly bombing. Food shortages began to spread as infrastructure outages disrupted supply chains. Blackouts hit 3 major provinces. And in the background, U.S. drones quietly resumed overwatch patrols along the northern Venezuelan coastline, silent guardians reminding the world who now controlled the air. In just 2 days, a single missile fired in arrogance had triggered a cascade of punishment: military, economic, diplomatic, and psychological. As one Pentagon official stated anonymously, "We didn't just neutralize a threat. We rewrote the balance of power in the Caribbean." And for Venezuela, the final lesson was clear. Sovereignty cannot be claimed through provocation. It must be earned through discipline. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind spoke louder than any detonation. October 17th, 2025. The Caribbean Sea was calm again, but it was not the calm of peace. It was the silence that follows a scream. In less than 72 hours, the world had witnessed a military exchange that defied every expectation. A missile launched without warning, a response delivered without hesitation, and a superpower's message carved into the concrete of a capital city. No formal war had been declared. No traditional battlefield had been drawn. But the message was unmistakable. American blood is not a bargaining chip, and American waters are not open